Hi everybody, my name is Taylor. I'm a therapist and I work at HeartSupport and I love metal and metalcore. So let's react to a brand new Polaris song called Inhumane. We're going to react, listen to the music, and then we're going to talk about the lyrics and how they relate to mental health. And hopefully you can use what we talk about to inspire positive change or better understand yourself. Let's get into it. Okay.
That sounds sadistic. One more for the reaper. It's been hard on my tail, but I've been trying to dig a little deeper. Cause the pain don't feel like it used to feel. No, I say enough. I crave the rush. So I'm dead, and we're all deeper still.
Okay.
Gone better look away. Get everything you erase like a bloodstain. Into your mind when everyone's a victim. I don't need to love. I don't need you. No sympathy, don't sing for me. Give me a shock to the system. In the end we return to nothing. What's another nail in the coffin? False-hearted, you're breathing. Eyes wide, stare at the ceiling. No fear it, no feeling. Love's left me numb. One more for the reaper. It's been hard on my tail, but I've been trying to dig a little deeper. Cause the pain don't feel like it used to feel. No, I say enough. I crave the rush. So I'm dead.
Ito, may sabi sila mga Okay, y'all. Crazy. Okay, let's get into it. I love. First thing that I noticed, suffer. Everyone's a victim. This is such an important line because there is so much truth to it. There's something that happens, particularly in conflict, that is a huge barrier to resolution and to finding collaboration. And this actually comes from a couples therapist that I really respect, Gay Hendricks. He wrote a book called Unconscious Loving. It's amazing. He talks about how in a conflict, one of the biggest barriers we face is that both people are in a race to the victim position. It is so much better unconsciously for the individual to feel like they are the one who has been wronged than that they have done something wrong. Now, of course, disclaimer that this is only applying in healthy relationships, right? In toxic relationships, there often is a clear like survivor-victim dynamic. But where does being the victim allow for conflict to continue instead of collaboration to exist? Because if you're both racing to the finish, which is being a victim, you're running against each other. You're in a competition. Versus if the finish line is the problem and you're in a relay, you want to get there together, right? So it's about changing the perspective of how can I recognize and take responsibility for my part in this conflict, and realize that in many conflicts, it's yes and. It's yes, I was hurt by this, and I participated and hurt by doing this. And both of those pieces can and should be acknowledged, but it is often important in healthy relationships to practice setting aside that label of victim and perpetrator as much as possible, and instead try to find common ground as a team. So notice first where you do that. I know I do that in conflict. I want to make myself seem like the good guy, right? We all do that. It's in narratives everywhere. It's entire movies based off of it, right? It's all superhero movies. So recognizing when you're doing it is the first step to changing the way that you as an individual show up in conflict. And it's the best way to start changing a dynamic is to work on yourself instead of pointing fingers at the other person. So love that line. Okay. One more for the Reaper. He's been hot on my tail, but I've been trying to dig a little deeper because the pain don't feel like it used to feel. No, I've seen enough. I crave the rush, so I'll dig a little deeper still. Something that it reminded me of is often people who have experienced pain or have depression for a long period of time, they become so allied with their pain that when it starts to lift and they start to heal, they're actually not used to what their life could be now that they aren't identifying as depressed. And that can be really disorienting. It's like, I don't want to feel this way. I don't want to feel sad. And also when I don't have this feeling, I don't feel like myself because so much of my identity has been wrapped up in being sad and being depressed that when I start to not feel that way, I like dig around a little deeper to try to see if there's something that I can feel bad about. Almost like, I don't know if I'm aging myself, but like Tumblr was a place where like it was cool to be sad. And I don't actually think that's necessarily a part of this, but oftentimes we do take on our feelings as our identity. And then when those feelings change or go away, or we actually start to heal some of our wounds, it is a good thing, but it's also an uncomfortable thing because it feels like it's a shift in our identity. And sometimes that resistance to shifting our identity can keep us in a place where we're stuck continuously trying to dig into wounds and reopen them instead of allowing them to heal. And there can be a lot of fear because change can be scary. And if you've lived a lot of your life as a depressed, sad individual, when you start to change and you start to heal, it can be like, who am I now? What do I do with my life now? What is possible? Like, also, is this going to last? Can I believe this? Can I trust this? Maybe it's easier to just feel sad all the time. Those are kind of thoughts that individuals have. And it can be really helpful to start to think about your depression is something you experience and not something that you are. And insert anxiety, PTSD, any kind of mental health disorder. That's something I work with my clients a lot about, is pulling apart your identity from your struggle. You are not what you struggle with. You are who you are. No fear and no feeling. It's left me numb. I think numbness, which is like the lack of feeling, can actually be the most disruptive feeling of all. And it often goes hand in hand with hopelessness. It becomes so painful to hope that it will get better or to continue experiencing sadness or anxiety, that your body just kind of numbs out for a variety of reasons. Sometimes it's self-protection, whatever it might be. And that numbness can feel welcome at first, but then really scary. And that's something I was working with a client on recently. And even as a therapist, that numb feeling can feel challenging because I know how to deal with emotions, but dealing with a lack of them can feel really scary. So if you've ever felt that and you feel scared, I understand. And my encouragement of how to kind of work through this numbness is you almost have to become, like, if you were just, a regular journalist, you have to become an investigative journalist. Like, if you just are someone who listens to true crime podcasts, you have to actually become a true crime podcast investigator. And what I mean by that is you have to hyper focus on your feelings and the positive feelings. So let's say, normally you don't even think about like, oh, when I have that first sip of coffee, I actually kind of feel joyful. Well, I want you then, if you're feeling numb, to try to pay attention to any shift out of numbness into a desired state. And this can work for a variety of emotions, but you have to hyper focus on it more. And then once you start to know, like, oh, when I have my morning coffee, I feel better. Or, oh, when I listen to music, I feel better. Or when I go hang out with a friend, I feel, even for a moment, even if it's for a split second, I feel less numb. I feel something outside of numbness. And then once you notice, then you act on that. So you add more of it to your life. And that is how you start to pull yourself out of that stuck place, is by adding more of what gives you even a moment of joy or relief or even just contentment or peace. And that often requires a magnifying glass to your life, whereas you might regularly, when you're just experiencing a flow of emotions, be able to kind of not even notice that some of these things cause a small shift. Okay, y'all, thank you so much for listening. This was amazing. I loved it, and I love talking with you about these lyrics. And most importantly, I love seeing people open up about their experiences in the comments. So if you could relate to this in any way, or you're going through something tough, comment below by tagging @HeartSupport, and we will provide support and encouragement. You don't have to do this alone. I love you. Go straight Polaris. Have a great day.
One more for the river. It's been all